Hello, everyone. Something too serious today, really, I would say. I'm privileged to be talking to Yeonmi Park. Born in 1993 in North Korea, author of In Order to Live, 2015, a book which I just finished reading today, and human rights activist and TED speaker, Yeonmi Park grew up in a punishing totalitarian society based on Stalinist and Maoist principles, perhaps the last Stalinist-era totalitarian state on earth, and devoted to the worship of Kim Jong-il and his family. But at the age of 13, she and her family made a daring escape to China in search of a life free of tyranny and indeed a life at all. In her viral talks, viewed online nearly 350 million times, and in her book, Park urges audiences to recognize, think about, and resist the oppression that exists in North Korea and around the world. Hi there.
Hi, Dr. Peterson. It's an honor to be on your show.
It's very nice to see you. I finished about the last third of this book this morning, and it makes for harrowing reading. There's no doubt about that. So you lived through some of the harshest times, I would say. You and your family likely lived through some of the harshest times in North Korea in the 90s after the Berlin Wall fell and the Russian communists stopped supporting North Korea's economy. Maybe we could start, I think, by just allowing you to tell your story. So you can start wherever you'd like. And
Thank you. Exactly as you mentioned, after Soviet Union collapsed, they were stopped helping North Korean regime. And North Korean regime is like run by central government economy. So they decide how much rice you can eat that day per person based on their class. So even though the biggest irony of North Korea is that it was founded the idea of equality, make everybody the same, the communism, and then they call even themselves as a socialist paradise. But they made into North Koreans into three big categories of classes, and within three categories, they divided 50 subcategories of classes. So it became the most unequal society that you can imagine right now in our human history. I was born in the northern part of North Korea. So during this great famine that was man-made famine by Kim regime, that's where most of North Koreans died, in the northern part where I was born. And the people in 𝐒𝐞𝐿, in the capital, they were still well fed. So the modern example that I found was actually the Hunger Games. There is a capital and they divide 13 different districts. They make everybody else outside the capital on verge of surviving. So people do not think about what is the meaning of life, what is freedom. All they have to think about is next meal. Like, can I find food to feed my child? And in Pyongyang, they are really well fed and they have every intention to maintain the system and the regime. So that's where I was born in the 1993. Seeing the dead bodies on the streets was literally everyday thing. I never knew that was like weird word. And that's what got me the first when I came out. People were saying, like, why there is no revolution in North Korea. And first of all, we don't even know the vocabulary revolution in North Korea. It's a country where they don't teach us about the word love. There's no romantic love in North Korea. I never heard my mom telling me that she loved me. The only word that we know, love, is that written form of the word where we describe our feelings towards like dear leader, not about to another human. So there's no word for love, no word for human rights, dignity, freedom. And that's why, people in North Korea, they don't know they are oppressed. They don't know they are slaved.
existence under totalitarian regimes, but that was the first time I'd encountered that particular wrinkle, let's say. So, all right, so you're 8 years old and your sister is 11 and you get up with the roosters and you have work to do. What are you eating at that point? How much are you eating and where do you get your food?
It really depends. In North Korea, it's not like when you eat, it's so random, like what you get that day. It's that's the thing. I never seen a cookbook. How do you find the half pounds of pork and flour and like scallion? Like if we just eat whatever we have at that moment. So if that day we had potatoes who were like frozen outside because we didn't have a place to put them, then they becomes very dark colors. We cook them and then we put lots of water in it and then some dried cabbage in it because usually water fills you up. So a lot of food has a lot of soup in it in North Korea to fill you up. And we make sure that we have enough food for the evening. We divide each meal. So depending on how much food we have that day, in the morning I more like do the public distribution for each one of us and how much you can eat per like certain meal. And some days we just cannot eat.
And who was distributing it?
My sister was the one more like chopping wood because she was bigger. She was doing more manual work, and I was the one more like cooking and doing the domestic work.
And where was the food coming from? Apart from what you gathered?
Sometimes my mom, before she goes away, like for several months, she leaves us with a few kilograms of corn and like other grains. Then we have to divide it for like 6 days. We don't know when she comes back or she will ever come back.
You told a story at one point about your mother leaving. I believe she was gone for several months and she left you some money. Mm-hmm. And you and your sister spent it on sunflower seeds and something else. Some cookies on the way back from where your mother left from. And then you had no money for all the time that she was gone.
Exactly. So we learned that lesson. The first time she left us, gave us some money. And then we never had those kind of big money in our hands. So on the way back, we bought sunflower seed and some cookies in the plastic bag. And then we had nothing left for us. And we were not even, so in North Korea, we don't even have phones. It's not like you can call up somebody, where are you? Like a lot of times they go out and they never come back. They might die on disease or station, or accident. A lot of people never hear back from. So going on a journey in North Korea is like higher chances of you never seeing them again. And so even though mom would say, I will come back, but we never knew she would. And once that happened, the first time we learned the lesson, mom would like leave us a few kilograms of grains, then we would divide as much as we could. So we would not run out until she comes back.
And you said that all you ever thought about, and your sister as well, was food. Mm-hmm. And that you dreamed about bread and you fantasized about bread and you talked about how much bread you could conceivably eat and that you were possessed all the time with hunger.
I know, I'm like still thinking, as a child, like I never ate till I felt full. So I never knew what was like limits of my own stomach was. I never knew how much should I be fed so I feel like full. So as a young man, I literally thought if I even eat the mountains of food, I thought I would never feel full. So we would compare how much I can eat more. So my sister said like I'm 100, I'm 1,000, then like a mountain and 10 million and whatever the number, whoever comes up bigger. And that's how we were just like dreaming of it. That was the only thing on your mind. So that's the thing. When people talk about like the civilization, right? It falls when you don't eat. People like become animals. You lose all those dignity. All you're thinking is just food, basic survivor. And that's what my people always dealing with, the basic survivor.
Yeah, and you were at that time too, you were seeing death everywhere as a consequence of starvation.
Mm-hmm. I still remember like one day my sister and I walked by near the well. It's like people bring the drinking water. There's a young man, I don't know, like maybe teenager. He lies down and his intestines just comes out of him and he was still alive and like, I'm hungry, give me something. But as a young mind, I didn't even feel sorry. That's the thing haunts me the most is that I feel nothing all my life there. And because every single thing I saw was like that. And now I'm thinking, was I a psychopath? Like how did I feel nothing about it? But that's, I think, so desensitized North Koreans are. Like
I think if you're in shock You were in shock all the time. I mean, you said in many of the experiences you had, for example, that you felt like you were outside your body watching. And that's a classic sign of dissociative stress. And you were in a situation like that all the time. All the time. So I don't think that you have to consult your conscience about that. It's in your book itself. There's no shortage of empathy on display. So, and I don't think it's a comment on your character. It's a comment on the absolute horror of the situation that you found yourself in. And obviously you were capable of great loyalty to your family members and even to some of the people that treated you very, very badly. I mean, the men that you were involved with, in part, once you escaped from North Korea, you had ambivalent relationships with. But I mean, in some, you were able to see their humanity despite the terrible situation that you had been placed in by them. So I don't think there's any issue of you not having the full range of human feelings. It's just you were in situations that were so terrible that no one, fortunately, no one in the West essentially can even imagine being in a situation like that. None of us, to speak of, or a very small minority of us, have ever been hungry for ever, let alone for any protracted period of time, and certainly not to the point of chronic malnutrition. That just doesn't happen here. So okay, so you lost your father was imprisoned when you were about 7 or 8, and what happened to him? What was the consequences for him? He was doing quite well in some sense by North Korean standards with his trading, so he was good at what he was doing, and your mother helped him. But he got imprisoned, especially after he moved up into more dangerous commodities. You said that he started to trade metals and that he was hiding the metals in cars, railway cars that were reserved for I think I've got this right, for Kim Jong-il.
Yes.
Yes, and because they wouldn't be searched.
Yes. So every train in North Korea, we only have one train line, and that goes from one side of the country to the end. It sometimes takes a month to go because of low electricity and the railways are very bad. And that's why there's always reserved one cargo that carries the things to Kim's from other
And
parts
what's
of the
in that
country.
car, just out of curiosity?
I mean, we hear these rumors. They grow the parts of the country that has the best land for growing apple or growing something, like the best of the best from the country that is specially reserved for them, and nobody actually really knows what's even in there. Even when those people who search that cargo cannot go, and the people who guards it, they have to do body search and health checkup for them. So that's how severe it's controlled. So really nobody knows what they're carrying inside. And my father was able to do something with them and then carry the metals in that cargo, hiding. And
he was bribing guards to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And then he got caught.
Yeah.
And was put in a. So talk about the prison situations, because just normal life in North Korea is unbearable by all accounts, but the prisons take that to a whole new level of hell. So what would have your father experienced in a North Korean prison camp?
So there are 3 types of prisons in North Korea. One is called the 𝐒𝐞𝐭. It is concentration camp. Usually you're born there. So let's say one day my grandfather committed some crime, then they take the generation to there. And it is like a permanent living condition there. You live there forever for the rest of your life.
And you're born there. You can be born there because of the group guilt of your ancestors,
so
which never goes away.
Right. You can never redeem by your group, whatever your ancestors did. Forever you're there. So they don't even consider these inmates a human enough. They don't even teach them who the leader is. They don't even know what Kim Jong-un is in that concentration camp. They are just.
You said they're not even allowed to look at the guards.
Yes, but that is every level. So where my father went was a prison camp. But those people know what Kim Il-sung is. But the thing is, they too also treat them like animals. They don't let them to ever see the guard's eyes. And of course, the the conditions are, I mean, it's a Holocaust, what the UN said. In 2014, the UN did a 3 years investigation, and the only resemblance that we found in our history is a Holocaust. This is a Holocaust happening in North Korea ever, like again.
And do you have any idea how many people are in the concentration camps, the worst of the prisons? Do you know what the estimates are?
They say around 200,000.
And what about the total prison population? Do you have any numbers for that?
Because so many are dying, so when you go to the prison, a lot of them die within 3 months. So those like numbers are very hard to like get. And it's the most secretive country in the world. Like even though the America cannot figure out North Korea. So those, we know that there are positions, we can even satellite seeing those public executions happening, but it's very hard to estimate how many going in and how many dying after like 3 months. It's hard to like calculate that numbers.
And so your father was in prison for how long?
He was sentenced to more than 10 years. Initially I thought it was 17 years, but North Korea showed the record. It was like, I think 11 year sentence, prison camp. He got out something 4 maybe years later for the sick leave, which means he was bribing. That's the thing.
Right,
Even
he played a trick on the ward.
Yes. Right. So he think for the sick leave, once you get cured, you go back to prison again. And he was a very like a businessman. He lured like guards and get him out, and that's how he got him out during his sentence.
And so you saw your father again after a couple of years. How many years were you without him?
I think 4 years.
4
I think
years.
I saw him again when I was 12.
Right, and you described that in the book. And so what did you see when you saw your father? What had happened to him?
So when I was reading this book by George Orwell in 1984, it talks about the man like Winston who had a lot of wits, and after that all the torture, he became empty, right? Like, and a lot of people like read that book as a fiction to them, but for me, that was like my father. When I saw my father again, of course, he had no hair. He just got out of prison camp. I mean, all he got was just bones, like literally skin on the bones. And the thing is, I didn't even feel anything. That's like what I'm still like guilty is like, I felt nothing. He was just so empty. His eyes were just hollow and empty. And then he was starting singing songs like, I didn't do enough for my country. Like he was so guilty that he was not a good revolutionary or whole. And it wasn't him. And in some ways, that was worse than killing him. They killed his soul permanently, that he never came back. Until he died, he felt guilty that the crime that he committed for the regime. Till his deathbed, he told me never betray like the dear leader. And I don't know what he did to him, but he came out as a completely different person.
So it was not long after that that you and your family decided to leave North Korea to escape. You were 13.
Yeah.
Your dad died.
Mm.
He died of cancer.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after he got out of the prison that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys decided to make your way to China.
No, I escaped actually. So my sister at 16, she escaped first with her friend. And I told you, as I got my stomachache, she left me a note to say, go find this lady, she will help you to escape. Initially, I didn't plan to escape with my mom. I was going to escape with my own sister, but because I got sick, my sister had to leave first. I found the note and found the lady with my mom and told her that she told me if I go to China, she said I was going to find my sister.
Right.
And then, I mean, but when you're so desperate, like you don't even know what China is. Like we don't have internet to search and what's going on in China. Just hoping, because China is the only place that had the lights at night.
And if you look at North Korea from a satellite image, It's quite interesting because the entire country is black at night and it's surrounded by the bright lights of South Korea and all of Southeast Asia. But you have this immense territory, the whole north of Korea, that's completely dark. And you talked about standing with your boyfriend at that time, looking at the lights in the distance of China, but you didn't know anything about it at all and had no idea what was going to happen to you if you escaped into China.
No, I did not even know what was China. I just saw the lights, and maybe if I go where the lights were, I thought maybe I would find a bottle of rice. That's how innocently we thought about it. And
right, and some of that motivation was direct hunger, right? You were hoping to find somewhere where you could at least get enough to eat.
Yeah, it was. That's the thing. It's a thing when people say you're so brave that you risked your life for freedom. Like, no, I wasn't. I didn't even know what freedom was then. Like, how do I know what freedom is? And like, I just was literally escaping to find some food to survive from hunger. And that's how we crossed that frozen river that night with my mother and myself when I was 13 years old to China, leaving my father behind back in North Korea.
So tell us what happened. Tell us about what happens to North Koreans as they move with the traffickers into Korea, because that's a whole story in and of itself. And it was something you had no idea about.
I know this is a thing, like people, the world is obsessed talking about slavery, but this is a slavery that happening just right now at this very moment that we are talking about this. So there are like 300,000 North Korean defectors are in China, and they are all enslaved by Chinese people. I was one of them. In 2007, we found this lady. Miraculously, she wanted to help me to go to China. I didn't even know why. She bribed the guards. So in North Korea, it's the most heavily guarded border with the people with the machine guns. And Kim Jong-un literally buries landmines on the border, so people would not escape. So entire country is a concentration camp. Entire border is sealed. We were luckily bribe the guards. We crossed the frozen river to China. And of course, the first thing I see was my mom being raped in front of me. And
you said that your mother offered herself as an alternative to you.
Yeah.
And you were 13 at the time. And that was your first introduction to sex of any sort, because there was no sexual education or contact for young people. There was no sexual education and no romance, no dating, anything like that. So that was your first introduction. I don't imagine you even understood what was happening.
No, that's the thing. Like, I go there and I was like something 60 pounds. I was very malnourished, maybe 50 something, but so small. And this man was like, I want to have sex with her. And my mom's like, what do you mean? Like, she's only a child. And then he's like, I want to have sex with her. So it's like, just take me instead. And he was raping her in front of me. But I'm like, I just never seen a sex video ever. Never even knew what rape was. That word was not even in my head. I just seeing something so horrible that I didn't want to see. And after that, they took us to this house where they would like literally make us stand up, make us turn around, take our teeth and everything, and making price on our body.
Yeah, now let me fill in a bit of background there. So the way you lay that out in your autobiography is that there's a heavy demand for North Korean women in China, especially rural China. And the fundamental reason for that, apart from desire for labor, is that China instituted a one-child policy back in the 60s, and many female fetuses were more aborted than male. So there's a disproportionate number of young Chinese men who have no partner and no probability of acquiring one, because there's an absolute shortage of women. And so you and your mother were valuable commodities because of the shortage of women.
Exactly.
Yes,
So,
I've got that
said,
right. And there was a price on, you both had a high value.
Yeah.
And that's when you entered what was essentially the world of slavery.
It's as you said, right now in China, literally 30 million young men has no hope of finding women in their life. 30 million men in China right now. So because of the regime, Chinese regime do not want this man to revolt even because of dissatisfaction with their lifestyle. In a way, Chinese regime does not cracking down on this human right trafficking either. We are almost like the price they are using to pay for this man not to revolt. And then, so when we go, I was 13 years old. I was a virgin. So my price would be less than $300 in 2007. And my mom's price was less than $100. That's how little a human being worth right now in this 21st century. And then each trafficker buys us, price goes up. So the second trafficker comes and buys us and then pay more price. Then they sell us to the Chinese farmers or the men, or to sell us to brothels or prostitution and like a lot of other like underground world, and sell us like products like commodity. And then I remember that's the thing. Like at 13, they were asking, so in China, in order to be here, you gotta be sold. And I didn't even know what human trafficking was. Like, what do you mean you're selling a human? I'm not a puppy. Like, how do you sell me? And they were like, no, you gotta be sold here. And they said like literally to me was that, oh, if you don't want to be sold, you can go back to North Korea. We can let you guys go back. But the thing is, going back to North Korea is a death. Like, even though miraculously regime doesn't punish me, there's no chance for me to find food. I mean, that's the hardest thing. It's like there's no place for us to go outside of North Korea. Like, if we leave that country, whatever the condition is, it's better than being in North Korea, because at least in China, we are being fed. Doesn't matter, we are raped, tortured, we are at least being fed. And that's how we stayed in China and they sold me separately from my mom, because they can charge two people's price. So they sold my mom and sold me separately, and that's how I got separated from all my family at 13.
Yeah, well, you said at the beginning when you went into China that you didn't tell the smugglers, the traffickers, that you were traveling with your mother. You said that she was younger than she was, and you said that you were older than you were.
Exactly.
Because they weren't going to take you otherwise.
Yeah, so the lady...
And you had no idea what was in store for you at that point also?
No, I did not know. But she told me, oh, don't tell them you guys are mother and daughters. Just say you're maybe aunt or something. And told my mom, you're much younger, you're much older. And because human trafficking was something that I didn't hear about in my life, I was so scared, because in North Korea, there's no bad news. Every news is a happy news, how amazing we are winning in the revolution. So I never even knew what rape was. Like in America, if you watch news, like somebody raped, you know what rape is. But in North Korea, they steal every information from you. Like news is not actual news. So not knowing what rape is, not knowing what human trafficking is, and just completely into just another like planet.
But you had enough to eat.
Yeah.
And was that the first time in your life that you'd actually had enough to eat? Were you able to find enough so that you could eat until you were full? Did you experience that at that point?
That's when I learned. Another thing is, it didn't matter that I had food to eat again, because I lost everything that mattered to me. Like I lost everything. And so I wanted to kill myself. Like I finally went to the place where there was a food for me, but then that means me being a slave, and I'm losing every single one of them in my life. And I was going to kill myself. And at that point, this broker told me, if you help me become my mistress, help me with my trafficking business, that I'm going to help you with your own family.
Why did you decide to stay alive? What kept you going?
Because my mother, he told me at that point, he said, if I don't kill myself and helping him, then he said he was going to buy my mom, because he's the one who sold my mom to a farmer.
Right. So at that point you were separated, and your mother was the enslaved wife, so to speak, of a farmer in a rural community.
Yes.
So she had to be bought back, and that's the deal he offered you.
Yes.
And so you decided to stay alive because you thought you could help your mother.
Yeah.
It wasn't for
And
you.
no, I was, yeah, it was my life mattered something, right? It meant something. I could do something more than that. So he offered to bring my father, and that's how I brought my father to China from North Korea. And that October when I was turning 14, in that October 2007, I saw my father again.
And so then you were with this man, Hong Wei, was that his name?
Hong
Hong
Wei.
Wei. And you describe a very complex relationship with him. He was violent and a gambler. So he would spend vast amounts of money raised by this trafficking trade and disperse all of it in gambling fits. And he was violent to you, but you also believed that over time he came to love you. And so what do you make of that in retrospect? It's an unbelievably complicated situation, to say the least.
Even though actually is a thing, last year he came out of prison in China after 10 years serving sentence, and I sent him money from the US to help him. And it was for me to, that's the thing. And then I could actually, this morning I woke up from this nightmare of my time with him, how violent he was. All my day I was like, so was hard of like all those nightmares I went through. But the thing is, like, nobody's pure evil. Nobody's pure like anger. And I think that's what it is. Like, as much as he was so evil, I'm still haunted by nightmares. He still like saved my parents. He still gave my father's last moment that I can cherish. And I think that's life really. It's not that like simple. Yeah.
So you were with him for how long?
2 years.
And what occurred after that? You went to Mongolia. What was the trek from him? Now, so he bought your mother back, and so you're together living with him, you and your mother?
Yes.
You can't find your sister yet at that point?
No, we couldn't find my sister.
Your father, is he still alive at that point when you're with Hong Wei?
So yes, during the time after finding my mom, he brought my father 6 months later, and then my father died 3 months later after I saw him again.
And you said you had changed dramatically after you left North Korea. You stopped being a child very, very rapidly. And
Yeah.
you started to take care of your mother and to make the decisions. And also when your father saw you, once he came to China, that he could hardly recognize you.
It still affects me. I think that at 13, I don't know what I became. It took so hard for me to fear something again. Like when I had my own son, actually in 2018, when I met you at the lecture, that is the year when I for the first time felt something. And like I was so grateful that I was feeling things ever again. And so at 13, I learned how not to fear ever. And I don't know how it was possible even. So my father came and then he died. So I buried his ashes in the middle of the mountain. And after that, Hong was like, he blew all his money from gambling. He couldn't even have.
You said when your father did come, though, you did revert to being a child from time to time, that you would sit on his lap and that you would turn back into a younger child and then go back into whoever you had become when you went to China.
Yeah. I think there were many versions of me back then to survive. Whatever the version that was fitting me to survive, I think I became that person. It was so complex. I don't even know like am I? Which person am I? Like I became so many persons. I still think I just don't even know how that was possible. Because my father before he died, like he was keep telling me about his childhood. And I think he just really missed me being a child. And I think something may brought that out of me. So my father is very hard thing for me to still deal with. But so he died, and then Hongwei couldn't afford to have us. He couldn't even able to buy us even food in China. That's really bad. He couldn't even able to feed us. So he was saying, okay, I'm not gonna let you go. Then how do we go? Where do we go? Even though
Your mother at that point, she was insisting that you sell her again, if I remember correctly.
yeah, I did sell my mom because I couldn't feed her. She was saying only way for me to feed in China was being sold again. So I sold my own mom and then gave the money to Hongwei, and then he put us in a one night gambling. So a few months later, I brought my mom, make her to run away from the farmer that I sold her. And then we luckily found a North Korean lady who operates in a chat room. I don't know, you know this. They bring these girls. So it was better than brothel. That's the thing. I had the option of going to prostitution or going to a chat room at 14. And I thought it's much better than being touched by men physically than going to a chat room.
Well, you said that with Hong Wei that, that was your introduction to sex essentially, and that it was catastrophic for you. And so, well, and then you, after Hong Wei could no longer afford to feed everyone, that's when you entered the chat rooms. And you were working in the chat rooms for how long?
Maybe over half a year, maybe less than a year. I think so, like maybe 8 months or 9 month time. So,
and the people that organized the chat rooms took the vast proportion of the money.
Oh, yes, all the money.
I think you got $1 out of 7. It was something like that.
Something like, but even that dollar we had to buy food and clothes and other things. So, but the thing is, still was better there than going into prostitution. And in that chat room, we met another North Korean fellow defector, and then she told me there was way out of all this, which means going to South Korea. And then they say, I told them, what do you mean South Korea? I thought South Korea was colonized by America. It's like the horrible capitalistic corrupt country. And she was like, no, South Korea is free. And that is, I remember still the time I learned the word free that day. I was asking her, what do you mean I'm gonna be free in South Korea? And she, of course, did not know freedom meant freedom of speech or none of that. She literally told me, oh, in South Korea, you can wear jeans and you can watch TV and no one gonna be arresting you for that. And that's how we conceived the freedom as North Koreans. Like freedom meant wearing jeans. So I asked her, then how do I do that? And then she was saying, oh, then you gotta become Christians. There were Christian like operation in China. If we become Christians, they were going to help us. And it was ironic for me, or why? Because I couldn't believe, like, why do we have to keep believing something to survive? In North Korea, we had to believe in Kims. But now, suddenly outside North Korea, we had to believe in God to survive. But the thing is, we are so desperate. Like, literally, if somebody took me or brought me like a rock, asked me to believe in rock, I would have believed. That is like how strong our humans were to survive.
And the like, Christians that you became associated with in China, were those Chinese Christians or were they missionaries from Western countries?
Both. They were
both.
Some of them from South Korea and some of them from China. And they would have these houses that make us to study Bible. And if we prove our faith to them, they then help us to go to South Korea. And that was a deal that we become Christians and they were going to help us. So at 15, I became a Christian. Like they made us to go fasting. I mean, like we were like managed all our life, but they said God can do more than that. So they go like fasting with a 3-year-old child in our group, a toddler. We go fasting and make us memorize Bible verses, and they come check us like if we memorize it or not.
How do you view that interaction with the Christians in China in retrospect? Was there any of that was useful, or was it just another belief that you had to adopt to survive?
So truly, honestly, Dr. Peterson, until I read your book, 12 Rules for Life, I I was atheist. I was so against religion because right now I'm with Christians at 15 studying Bible, and then they found out about what I did to survive in China. And
The
then
chat rooms.
yes, and I remember the pastor was saying, "You're so dirty, like it can never be washed." And he literally like some Corinthians, some verse telling me that how some sins can never be washed, and how I was so dirty for doing what I did to survive. And that was actually a lot harder in some ways to going through all that journey, because when I was at least going through it, I didn't think that was a bad thing. I thought like something you have to do to survive. Because my father always told me life was a gift. You have to fight for it no matter what, how hard it is. You should never give up on like life. And then I'm suddenly now with this missionary telling me what I did was wrong. I should have like died instead of doing something that dirty to survive. So it was very tough to deal with, like keep thinking for the rest of my life, was it worth it?
Well, but also you were at that point too. You said that the reason that you didn't kill yourself was because you wanted to help your mother. You had other people that were dependent on you. It wasn't just you.
Mm-hmm.
And you were still looking for your sister too. You had no idea what had happened to her at that point.
Yeah, I didn't. So yeah, but the thing is now what I'm thinking of that no matter what he was better than those people talking about inclusion, all of that, because he risked his life to saving lives. Those pastors, those missionaries who sent to prison for lifetime sentence in China. No matter what people are saying, like you gotta see their actions. And these people actually cared about humanity than anybody that I met having all this flowery, loving language they are using. So that's the thing, like it's so hard to understand humanity that even though it hurt me so long, I'm like forever grateful for what he did for us. And namelessly, I'm like, I made a name for myself. If I'm dying, people will know, but he never did. And he didn't even tell me his name. We asked him, like, tell us your name so we can at least thank you afterwards. Like, no, it's not, I'm doing this for making a name. I'm doing this because of love. Love for Jesus, that he loved us. That's why I'm loving you guys so much. So in a way that he was the only person who showed me with the actions that humans can love another, that like unconditionally. So it's just very complex.
So it was his group that took you and your mother to Mongolia.
They told us how to go to Mongolia, because in desert, there's no way you can make it out. It's like it's a random luck. It's a pure luck. That's why I think maybe they were more religious. They were waiting for God's sign to send us, because it's not like guide taking us. If you getting into the Gobi Desert, most of chances, like mostly you're never gonna be found by any human being on Earth.
So you decided that you would just go into the desert and take your chances.
Yeah. So
and that was you and your mom.
And then we have 5 other people in our group and 1 baby with us. So it was a 8 people group. And then they told us, go follow northwest direction with 1 compass. And then if you cross 8 wire fences, hopefully that's gonna be Mongolia for you. It's a random chance of taking the luck.
And so why was Mongolia a reasonable target, or were you just out of options?
Because it didn't cost money. If we wanted to go to other countries like Thailand, we had to pay the brokers, but we didn't have money. So Mongolia was by walking, we crossing the walks. When you walk, you don't pay anybody. So now really nobody escaped through Mongolia because it's too dangerous. Now most of the factors escaping through Thailand, but we were the last people who ever crossed the desert to make it successfully.
So what happened in Mongolia? You did run across authorities.
Yes, we did.
After how long? How long were you in the desert?
We were actually only there 1 day, but it was 2009 in February, minus 40 degrees.
Minus so 40?
Yes, in desert. It's below Siberia, so usually guards would think like nobody's crazy enough to cross desert right now in this temperature, because you can die like within a few minutes if you don't move in desert for even 10 seconds. You're frozen there. You're like constantly moving every second.
And you said you had almost no clothing at that point because they told you to pack light.
Like my mom.
How come you didn't freeze? I mean, -40 is unbelievably cold.
Yeah, it's a miracle. Life is a miracle. It's like some things you cannot explain in a human way. It's just like people say it's a luck. Maybe you can say it's a luck. I don't know. I remember like everything was frozen and we didn't even have gloves or scarves. That's the thing. And now I'm like complaining how cold Chicago is. Like, no, we were wearing these bare, no snow jackets, none of that. And all I remember was we reminding each other we gotta keep moving, because when you are frozen, it gets very sleepy and like you're losing a lot of senses. And then maybe you wanna rest, and then we were reminding each other, no, we gotta keep going, like dragging each other, moving. Every second counts. We gotta move.
And did all 8 of you make it, and the baby as well?
We made it, because initially we have to drug the baby. If the baby cries, the guard's gonna hear us. So we would give him the sleeping pill to make him sleep. But sleeping in that frozen like weather is so dangerous thing. So we have to constantly waking him up, like passing around between people to keep him awake. And he made it too.
Huh. So you were picked up by the authorities, and you were put in a holding camp, essentially.
Yeah.
It didn't seem, compared to many of the other things that you had been through, it didn't seem as awful. Is that reasonable? So tell us about that. So
the thing was in Mongolia, it wasn't something physical hardships we went through so much. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, they were, this is the thing. Later we learned, like, so Mongolia, they wanted to send us to North Korean side. I mean, to the Chinese side, and then send us back to North Korea. So we literally brought the lasers and like poison syringes to kill ourselves in front of them. And we thought like they were sending us to China side. But later we learned that these soldiers had never intention, but they loved looking at our reactions, how we would react.
Really?
And yeah, that's the thing.
Jesus, it's so unbelievable.
I know. It's like literally, I remember like trying to come myself with a laser, tell my mom like we did everything we could to make it. And luckily they stopped us right before we cut ourselves. But the team who came after us, they went too far, so she didn't swallow the poison. And then they took her to hospital, and she became like mentally like lost a lot of her senses afterwards. So it was a game for a lot of people, like teasing us, seeing someone like. And I think that's like very hard at this point, like to try to make sense of like being a human, like, it's just so hard to know this is like the same life that I've been having. It wasn't like some dream or something.
So you were, after that, you were reasonably treated in Mongolia, but you were also subject to a lot of interrogation.
Yeah.
And why was that?
Because one is they tried to screen the spies out, because North Korea sends a lot of spies disguising as defectors and send them, so they can assassinate like me, someone who speaks out, or get information who my relatives are, and then send back to North Korea so they can punish the family members of the defectors. So a lot of defectors, just like spies can do. But not only that, South Korea also had a very like heavy discrimination towards North Koreans, and the country is still they blame the victims when it comes like the rape. They like, because of you got raped, not the men. So I remember like during my interrogation, he asked me like, do you have tattoo in your body? And I was 15 years old. And I was like, no, I don't have tattoos. Like, are you sure?
They were looking for marks that would prove that you were engaged in prostitution.
Exactly. So I was like, no. And it's like, I'm going to take off your clothes here. Like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. And that's when I realized, like, really like there was no angel at all. Like there's nothing better country. Like of course there's all degree of bad and good. And South Korea actually is another hard place for North Koreans to adjust. And like 2 years ago, there was a mother and son died in the middle of Seoul, South Korea, from starvation because of the ignorance from South Korean public towards them. They died from starvation in the middle of like capital of Seoul. I mean, South Korea.
So you went through this lengthy interrogation process in Mongolia, and then it was decided, and your mother was with you, and it was decided at that point that you were genuine refugees, and you made it from there to South Korea.
Yeah.
And was that to Seoul?
We know from Mongolia, several months interrogation, they take us to another 2 months of the interrogation at the South Korea's intelligence facility. Then they take us to 3 months of re-education program. Is
Right,
like,
and that's when they taught you how to be integrated to some degree into South Korean culture. So talk about that too. That's very interesting.
yeah, so they give us this 3 months of training periods where they introduce us to this new planet.
And
where
that's
there's-
once they've identified you as genuine refugees.
exactly.
So then you got in that stream.
Yeah. Once they're proven, sometimes they even go through those like lie detectors with other defectors. They really make sure that you're not a spy and saying everything is true. Once that is proven, they put us this 3 months of training period where they tell us what bank is, right? As a North Korean, we never know what bank or ATM machine is. They tell us like how to ride a bus, how to ride a subway, you know, like the
What did you think of all that? I mean, you'd been in China for some time, so this wasn't the difference between North Korea and other countries wasn't quite as shocking, I presume. But what was happening to you when you started to understand the massive difference between North Korea and the rest of the world, and also the fact that everything that you had been taught since you were born and everything your parents had been taught, all of that was, every single bit of it was a lie. What was that doing to you?
That was the thing, like as you said. I remember they said, oh, Korean were started by Kim Il-sung, by Americans. And like in North Korea, literally they tell us Americans are bastards, they are the most evil thing, right? And at that point, my reaction was, so if everything that I believe was a lie, how do I know that what you're saying is not a lie?